I'm Maya Hasagawa, and I'm the chair of the Development Review Board, and I'm calling the August 17th meeting of the Development Review Board to order at 7:05. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence related to an application. Application materials and written testimony is posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if materially important documents, I can never say that word, important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and the decisions of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, we are going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So I'm going to ask that any applicant and anybody who thinks or knows they're going to speak on a certain item of the agenda, please stand. Okay, those of you who aren't standing are not planning to speak. If you are planning to speak, you have to take the oath. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
I do.
You may be seated. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That's 4 votes out of 7. We currently have 6 board members. Catherine's here. And 1 alternate. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board, and the documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. The 2 people who came in, are you planning to speak?
Yes.
You need to be sworn in.
Okay.
Please stand. Are both of you going to speak?
Just me.
I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please, you may be seated. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 20th?
Motion that we approve the minutes of July 20.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Second.
Michael, I believe it was Gary and Michael. Brian?
Sorry.
Brian, was the meeting properly warned?
Yes, it was.
Okay, now I'm going to ask the board to disclose any conflicts of interest and ex parte communications.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Dan
Okay.
go. Dan?
That's with any of the cases on the agenda?
Cases of the agenda.
Right. I have one.
Please.
Excuse me, ex parte communications with Josh Steele, who's the third on the docket today.
Okay.
So I'll be abstaining or
Are you going to
recusing, excuse me.
yourself?
Recusing myself, yeah.
Okay. Tom?
Yep, I have ex parte communication received from Josh Steele, the third proceeding of the meeting today. I did not, well, anyway, I shared all of that with staff in advance in the materials. I don't know if that's going to be how that works. But I'm not of the understanding that I have to recuse. I didn't return any of the communication. So I didn't conduct any of it myself. I just received it.
Whether you recuse yourself or not is up to you.
Okay. I think I can be impartial. And
Okay.
oh, but Brian, I thought with the minutes that after they were published, there were a few things that a few typos, or like my name is twice in one spot, and I assumed that would be on these minutes, but now I'm looking through and I see like I voted in favor and I voted in opposition to one of the things, so maybe it's just understood that the minutes that we approved would have those typographical.
No, just send me an email with the corrections so I can
Okay.
clean them up.
Sure.
But there are
Maybe I just
definitely
dreamed it and I
typos.
didn't actually send it to you.
No, I usually proofread them and I don't know whether I did or not.
Might have had a non-proofread version because Maya did give me some feedback of
Yeah, I
Oh.
did.
exactly
see.
that nature.
Okay, I am going to then appoint Tom Moskowitz, who's an alter, Moskowitz.
Mosikowski. Same person, just different pronunciation.
I know somebody named Moskowitz. Mosikowski to hear all applications.
Okay.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is 2022-63 Shastin Joynt, is that how you pronounce the name? For Marlboro Heights II LLC, Waterfront District, request for site plan and riparian buffer conditional use approval. And who is going to speak on this? Would you come sit and identify yourself?
Hello, I'm Shastin. I'm a founder of a Third Eye Collective. We're an artist collective. We come together to collaborate on art and bring all of our equipment that we have to share and to create projects and to show off everyone's talents. And we've been looking for a piece of land for a long time, and this little piece of land came to us. So we see how beautiful it is, how great of a place it is to retreat. We see a lot of art and healing taking place here. So we'd like to hold some small outdoor events, some gatherings, and then be able to have a small camper so that we could make an income there and it not be a stress to need to throw events to make an income for the rent. But, yeah. And I think also for the restoring the riparian buffer, I have site plans from Adam Hubbard of ways of restoring that.
Did we get those in advance? The
Yes.
restoration?
Yes, is that fine?
Oh, I have the site plan, yeah, but the plan for restoration of the buffer?
It's not a detailed plan. It does show areas where it's going to be replanted and areas that are going to remain impervious. Yes.
Okay, I'll start with asking questions. First of all, about the parking. You, on your site plan, you have plans for 6 parking spaces. Okay. The parking spaces do not meet the requirement for parking.
Okay.
They're not wide enough, and they're also within the buffer zone. You are planning for a 50-foot buffer, and in the past, we've required 100 feet.
Okay. So, okay. You would prefer 100 feet then?
Well,
With this site
with this site,
before.
we have a previous decision saying 100 feet from the water, and your site plan does not meet that.
Okay. So I can talk to Adam Hubbard about that.
And you understand that your parking does not meet the requirement. There's no way you can get 6 parking spaces that legally meet the width requirement for a parking space.
Reading. Do
If you
you?
look at the land use regs, you'll find, you can see what the requirement is.
Question about the parking. Was there plans to stripe it and label the spaces to actually show 6, or? And are you-
No, really just a flattened area.
So it'd be more like 2 areas to park, and
Right.
you've written 6, but
And
do you need to have 6?
that number 2 was just the question was asked how many spots, so that is a number that I came up with that I thought would be just an average number, but it's not necessary to have 6. No, there's a nearby lot at the baseball field that they've allowed parking at in the past if there is need for overflow.
Do you have a written agreement with the town to use that as parking, overflow parking?
We haven't came, sorry.
We haven't done it yet.
We would require you have a written agreement.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll definitely want to call them up and be sure, like, hey,
Maya, when you say we would require that,
The DRB, we would,
but in order to have an outdoor event space?
no, in order to use the parking at the ball field.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Yeah, in order to rely on that and say that you're going, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty standard what we have required in the past.
And is it? I don't know if you would have the answer to this question, but do you see how many parking spaces would possibly would fit there, or I'd get that answer from my site developer?
No.
Okay, no worries.
It could mean some of it's gonna depend on, you said a small camper,
Yes.
and this plan shows one that's 10 by 40. That's not small in my eyes. So what size camper? And can you talk about what that might be?
Well, we haven't acquired the camper yet. We needed to see what would be getting approved. So I think he planned for as much space as possible. But if the entire area needs to be condensed due to the 100 feet.
Do you guys have the all the statistics on what needs to be what?
It's
I could
in the
probably draw
land
that
It's in the land use regs.
regulations that are on, they're on the website.
Yeah, okay.
For the purposes of the minute, could you identify yourself, sir?
Justin Shackelford, co-founder of Third Eye Collective.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think I recall in the permit application, you said there would be a fence somewhere that you put in? But I didn't see it on the plan.
That's
Just remind
something
me.
that we envisioned because it's a steep incline, especially at night. It's pitch black, so anyone walking off could
It's dangerous.
fall right off. Really, if you didn't really know where the edge is. So, yeah.
And just remind me, please, the edge is where? Is it between the parking and the 50-foot riparian buffer?
That would be along the water, the West River, and the entire edging there.
Kind of just drops off, a little steep there.
Oh, I see the gradation lines, yeah. It's like 20 feet from the water's edge.
Yeah.
And the lighting too, what type of lighting are you gonna be using?
String lights.
Like low lights,
Very minimal.
firelight, maybe some neon lights. Depends on the vibe, I guess.
What kind of lighting is gonna be in the trailer?
That's kind of a
Whatever
hard
would
question.
come with the trailer. I'm sorry, I've never had an RV before.
I would love the
But,
low lights in the trailer too, to be honest.
Maybe staff can just help me with this quick. There's so many terms regarding the floodway and flood fringe and base flood elevation and area and buffer and setback. The 100-year floodplain boundary they have there, assuming that's accurate, does that demark our land use regs flood hazard overlay district, our special flood hazard area?
Yes,
And
the
so-
special flood hazard area is the 100-year or 1% floodplain.
So that proposed RV is outside of that.
No, it's not.
Well, I see the dashed line and the RV
That's
is.
the 50 foot.
The 50-foot is a setback from the river. The 100-year, see, just
Okay.
to the right of
No, I
you
got
see
it.
it? Okay. So the RV is outside of the flood, okay.
But it's within the 100 feet setback,
If we view this as undeveloped site,
like we did before.
are we beholden to our past decisions forevermore?
Precedent is important.
Well, that being said, Brian, on your draft decision, you talk about that this lot was used before for 3 construction trailers, or when they were building the bridge there. And
It was a temporary
right.
emergency use.
And I guess that's the question that I have is that permit called for the site to be restored after the removal of the construction trailers. I guess has that happened to the degree that it was intended, was written up in the permit?
No, Mr. McKay continued to make use of it without permit.
So that we are, right now, we're what would be in arrears, I guess, or whatever. It's has not been restored.
That's correct, it has not been restored.
Is Mr. McKay's not here, is he? The owner?
He's renting the property to us, but I believe that restoration is what we're trying to get approved before we can do anything.
Or there was some other things signed to it before we knew anything to it.
Well, like I say, I'm not familiar with with what restoration was required.
I looked at the past permit, and before the bridge and the site plan, and before the bridge work was being done, there was already a driveway, right? And the northwest corner of the lot was woody planted, brush and trees. And then the site plan for the bridge workers' temporary housing was in that northwest corner, so they must have cleared the trees and forest. So then when the revegetation command says to revegetate the site, it doesn't say the lot, it says the site. I take that to mean the site of the trailers. And it appears that that has been done. It's not clear to me that the permit says to revegetate the whole lot.
I use
trailers-
site and lot or parcel interchangeably.
Oh,
Okay, we made the DRB, and can you move the site plan, so, because I can't see Dan and Catherine.
That site, Tom, I agree, it's ambiguous.
Sorry, I don't know if either of you have any questions, Dan or Catherine, but I couldn't see you because you are hidden. No questions?
Well, I guess this might not might be part of the presumption here, but I'm curious if our applicants had the understanding that when so property was purchased, and was the understanding that there was going to be a site plan that would fit the need that they're proposing.
When we had first originally been offered the land to rent, we definitely did think the entire land was permitted to all of our intentions.
Originally,
But to be honest, the rent is cheap and the land is really beautiful, and we see possibly a future in us maybe owning this land, if I'm being hopeful. So we want to do everything we can to restore whatever the previous tenants may have left for us, so that we can have a clean slate and have everything environmentally and
turn into a beautiful area in the city, which it should, like the rest of the city.
So can you describe the events that you see happening there?
My partner is a musician. I am a photographer and painter, jewelry maker, and our third founder, who's
She does our visuals
traveling
too.
the country in a circus. She worked with NECA and graduated from there and taught there, and she's an amazing aerialist and contortionist. So just the three of us collaborating, we've done so much together, and we have met so many other people who do so many amazing things in that process. And so it's really a gathering of artists to do photo shoots, to play music,
People to sell their homemade jewelry out there and all that.
Yeah.
So it's more. It sounds very nice, but how many people?
We
Probably no more than, I don't know what the max is. Probably no more than really 200. I don't see. We try to do private, nothing like mass gatherings,
never really
nothing like that.
How many
hit
people
that
did you
many.
say?
I'd say for this piece of land, like 50.
That's
50 or
maximum
so.
potential. That's probably not even gonna happen. But usually like 100, 110, 120.
On this small piece
Well,
of
so
land?
we've held events
yeah.
in the past at other venues that have capacities, and where we know that this land is small, and
We keep it small.
yeah, we'd like to keep it intimate. So we are kind of open to the suggestion of a capacity.
I have a question, or actually a question and whatever. So if the buffer is to be met to the regulations and the parking is to be met to regulations and possibly, I don't know, the living space that looks like it was supposed to be some kind of living space down on the left-hand side there. Where are you planning to put 110 people? How are they going to get there? And you will have no parking for them.
I mean, I really don't envision over like 75 people.
But you still don't have enough parking space.
So that can be worked out. We can
And-
rent shuttles from parking in areas. They can park downtown, and we can buy the shuttle if we have to. Like, there's ways around that. I've pre-thought of certain situations like this. Done it before.
And with the softball field nearby too, I mean, of course, we can get that written agreement, but we've heard good things about that.
Well, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I don't think I have enough information to approve this request.
May I?
We don't have a site plan that includes the 100-foot buffer. We don't have a detailed plan as to how it will be replanted. We don't have, we don't know how big the trailer's going to be. We
What-
don't,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't personally have enough information to make a decision.
So, ma'am, are you suggesting like a just revision of the site plan with the new information that we have now received? Which we probably should have looked it up, but I'm just pretty much revising this to accommodate what you guys.
Well, if we could do, I don't know what the board would like to do, we can deny the request and then you can redo it and come back. We can deny it in a way that you don't have to pay another fee. And I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
That's fair.
I would suggest deny it without prejudice.
Yeah.
It allows them to come back with a similar type of application, just with more detail, and it's not the second bite at the apple, basically.
I will say this is my first time doing anything with the city and land, and I'm open to all the suggestions, and I can
Well, I
definitely
think
do all
you
of that
need
and
to
come
read the
back.
land use regulations very carefully.
Okay, for sure.
Can I ask one more question? What provisions are you considering for removal of septic human waste?
This was something
For
this other guy was talking
any
about.
events that have more people than just a couple, then that would be porta potties.
What about the structure?
The structure would just be the RV, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Okay.
And
can drive
that I
those
believe has
places.
septic inside the RV.
You just drive and it goes to maybe KOA and just empty it out.
Okay, so it's just a like a travel trailer, not
Yeah, not like no.
I mean,
There's
we
no
haven't, like I
camper.
said, haven't purchased it yet, but
Yeah.
I would want something that we could
A little classy.
use the bathroom in and see.
Some just nice, some air conditioning, maybe.
drive it away somewhere and have it pumped out or what have you.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Maybe
and water supply.
There's water.
water, electricity,
On the way.
3 hookups.
Yeah.
And I would also like to have something in from the fire department on the use of emergency vehicles going in and out of there. I'd
Okay.
like to have it inspected. If that's the case, because if you're gonna have a group of people that may be there, have for a gathering like that, then you've got to be able to have easy access by emergency vehicles.
Right.
And I'd like to see that on the plan.
Okay. And they could possibly give a fire capacity.
I think they can give you a better purview.
Would something like this require a state wastewater permit for water supply and septic?
I think that it was obtained at the time that the construction trailers were put there, wasn't it?
RVs don't need to get a wastewater permit so long as they're not permanently attached to the site, and I don't know about open air events.
I mean, but even as far as where you're getting your water from.
No, because if they're not attached to the site, they're self-contained and, In the event this does have a legal well on it.
I think one thing, I don't know what the process, being maybe new on the board, but at least personally, and I already expressed it, I think that what they have proposed here with the 50-foot riparian buffer, because of being a pre-existing, what's the term again? Pre-existing developed lot. I think that's true. I don't think the 100-foot, and just so you know, if the 100-foot buffer comes with, I don't have the regs memorized, but I don't think you'd have any place to put the RV if you go with that. So.
Which there is like a cleared, already gravelled area.
Right, so I mean, if we're gonna be advising them to come back with a 100-foot buffer in mind, I mean, it sounds to me like that's a no-go for them.
We
don't know.
we made a decision in March, just a few months ago, that the parcel was undeveloped and needed a 100-foot setback. I mean, that was our decision.
I wonder if you saw all the information that was available.
We did.
You saw
Yes.
the bridge workers.
Yes, we saw. We knew about that.
Okay, I guess it's just a matter of interpretation then.
So
Like a
also,
amphitheater.
if you have a larger incursion than is allowed by right, the board can authorize that as a conditional use, which is what this is warned for. So again, you'd have to make sure it's still compatible with the purposes of the riparian area regulations and with the district standards. But to the extent you find that's true, you could allow for more incursion.
I like to see also with the traffic, you're saying 100, 200 on there?
We could if we wanted to be honest.
I don't
but
envision
we
that
don't.
much.
Well,
Excuse me, can everybody please turn your cell phones off?
We have pulled that many, not that,
At
at this
larger
necessary
venues.
area.
So I know, I'm just
That's not
saying,
wise.
in regards to that, you were saying with the parking and the traffic and everything, so yeah, I was just thinking that.
It would definitely have to be something worked out with like a shuttle system. Like they can't just park
Definitely
along the
don't
highway
see
like that.
anywhere at this-
Does any member of the board have any questions? Dan?
Yes, just another request, in your revised application, if you could clarify for us, if these events or the regular use of the property are, water dependent, waterfront dependent, and indicate any pieces of your plan that might involve, people using the waterfront.
As far as like maybe kayaking or something, or just like going, okay,
Yeah,
swimming. Cool.
I
Like
presume,
I was hanging out.
yeah, it seems like obviously you have the interest in the property for the aesthetics, but people are going to want to, if you have more than 20 people, someone's going to bring a boat or something, I would think.
For sure.
Or
So, can I have a motion, that we deny the application with prejudice? Without prejudice, excuse me. Which means that they can come back with a more complete plan.
I move.
Catherine
I
moves,
second.
Gary seconds. Okay. All in favor? Dan?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Nora?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Hi.
Tom? And aye. So it's 7, is that 7? 7-0. And you'll get a written decision. And you should read the regs, and you should probably talk more with the planning department. Okay?
you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to 2022-67. Oh, 67.
77.
Is it 77 or 67?
67.
I can't remember. It's two different ways. Say both, please.
Okay. Tyler Keith for Donald Dompier. Appeal of an alleged zoning violation for running a motorcycle repair shop and creating a noise nuisance at 81 Williams Street. Who is going to speak?
I guess Don will join us as well.
Okay, sir, I don't believe you're sworn. You cannot give testimony unless I swear you in.
You just have to say that you're not gonna lie. She'll read you and you have to just say yes. You gotta stand though.
Can you please stand?
You gotta stand.
I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes.
I do?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Keith,
Yes.
you want to talk to us about your reasons for appealing the decision? And I just tracked everything.
I am not actually running a business. This is just a storage for my motorcycles and some various parts that I have for motorcycles. There's no exchange of money happening at the space. You can't buy anything. I don't offer any services there. I'm not a mechanic. I don't make any money from this space. It's actually quite expensive. I have a full-time job that has nothing to do with motorcycles. This is just a hobby and a place where I can work on old motorcycles and keep them alive.
Are they your own motorcycles?
Yeah, they're mine.
How many motorcycles do you have there?
I have 3 right now.
Do you buy and sell motorcycles?
Nope.
How did you get them?
Oh, I mean, yes, I bought those, but sorry.
You're not a dealer.
I'm not a dealer. I thought that's what you were asking.
Do you live there?
No, I don't live there. I live at 28 Valley Street.
What is the principal use of the lot, either according to staff or according to you guys?
Storage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would consider it storage.
Mainly, that's all it is storage, and he just asked for some place to rent, so. It's not a business. I don't know, we're not asking for a business.
Including the rest of the building?
Pardon?
The rest of the building?
Yeah, rest of the building, just one area of storage, and the other, I showed it to him tonight, but there's nothing in there but storage. No business going out there, like you say, he's just using it for a garage. And he doesn't have, we're not asking for a business there, we never had a business in there.
Gotcha. I ask because we have
But it
this.
is a commercial lot, so we could ask for it, but we didn't. We're not asking for it.
Right.
We're just getting complaint.
This isn't a residential neighborhood, it's not.
Oh, it's a commercial.
It's a residential neighborhood district. It had been rezoned. I think it was
What?
in commercial industrial or something like
He's
that.
calling it a
In
residential.
2015, it got rezoned.
It's been rezoned?
In 2015, right? I don't know what this
I
regs were
never
like
got
before
anything to
that.
change,
So,
you know.
so
I
your
would-
business was.
Mine's a commercial lot, as far as I knew. I
Was
figured it.
grandfathered in when the area was made residential.
I hadn't got no notice on it. It was commercial, as far as I know. It was commercial when I bought it.
Well, things
I
get
can't remember what
grandfathered
year I
in.
bought it. I mean, that's a commercial area through there.
So,
I got another vacant lot there that I figured I could build on. I could just ask for a variance to build on it, but it's commercial. I haven't had anything that said it's changed. They talked about the water level being changed, but when I bought the place, I had the 1 foot over floodplain, 100-year floodplain, and that's what I built, 1 foot over. On that building, the block building that's there, that one there was already there. It was existing. You can see. But if I guess, you know, I'd have to go find out more about it. They start talking about changing the floodplain down there, but they're also talking about building a pond out in front to make it so you don't, you know, I figured that would help the floodplain too, you know? I don't know. We're not asking to put a business in there anyway.
Well, I guess that, Brian, you had a complaint?
Yes, neighbor complained.
And
Would you like to speak? You can just come to the mic there. Here?
Mhm.
Say your name and where you live.
The mic's actually that one.
Oh, up here. Yeah, the seat.
My name's Kathy Carr and I live at 47 William Street. And last spring-ish, Tyler started renting, I think, about that time. I called the town about it. There were a lot of motorcycles. There were people in and out. And it was just a lot, it was a lot of noise and a lot of activity. I talked to Brian, he said it's not zoned for a business. I made a few more complaints. And then the winter is quiet. And in the spring, I was walking by with my friend and I asked Tyler how's business, and he said, well, it was slow over the winter, but it's warming up, so I'm hoping it improves. And a neighbor who was upset by the noise, he has since moved, but he said in the winter, Tyler rents it from Dompier, but then he rents the space to friends who want to store their motorcycles there. So, but that's, you know, Dave's not here. But since the complaint, it's been dramatically different. Dramatically. Occasionally, you know, Tyler might come and go on his motorcycle, but that's it. But it's not the incessant noise. And when I originally went to Dompier to ask about it, he and Steve said, you know, they remember, you know, all the motorcycle noise from, is it the Lind motorcycle that was on Flat Street?
Yes.
And so they told me to just go tell them not to rev the engines, which I felt wasn't quite the solution. But Steve said how it drove him crazy to have motorcycles from Flat Street. So they knew what I was talking about. And if it wasn't a business or an excessive hobby or whatever the hell, it's dramatically changed since the complaint. So it was incredibly unpleasant. Other neighbors were upset, but no one wanted to go on the record. So it's just me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
So just one question from reading the description of the work. You said basically it's just a storage for your bike. That's it. Nothing
It's a
more,
place
nothing?
where I can work on motorcycles. They're old Harleys, so they're constantly breaking down, and they need a lot of love and care and maintenance, and just to keep them on the road and going.
On doing that, you have to test them too to see if they're operational, correct?
I mean, part of it is, you know, starting them there and then leaving, going on a test ride, making sure everything's okay with them, you know, things like that.
you have facilities so that you can safely start and run the motorcycles inside, or do you do that?
I don't really run them inside. Yeah, there's not much ventilation, so if I need to start them, I'll take them outside. And, you know.
This is at the nighttime that there's mentioning. Is there any nighttime tests?
Yeah, no, I'm not really there at night very often, so mostly afternoon after work, things like that on the weekend during the day.
Dan, Catherine, you have any questions? No?
Well, actually, can we address questions to the complaint, to the neighbor who issued the complaint?
Sure.
Or, okay. I just wanted to see if you could clarify for us. Are you saying that essentially because of the complaint, the behavior, the use of the property has changed
Yes,
since then?
dramatically
Sure.
it's changed.
Understood. And at this point, with that change, would you say that they've remedied the situation?
It's fine, basically, if it really was kept like this, but I fear he's gonna go back to what it was. You know, right now, it's very quiet. You know, like I said, if he goes by on his motorcycle, he just goes by. Before, I called a realtor. It was so assaultive, the noise. So, it was so unpleasant. I mean, I live there, it's my home.
Sure.
So, and to have motorcycles worked on and then up and down the road, plus there were a lot of motorcycles.
Yeah, it's a
People
public
in and out.
road. Yeah, I hear you. But as far as your experience recently, things have changed. That's
And
dramatically.
I called in the last complaint when he said business was slow over the winter, but he hopes it improves with the warm weather. To me, that is not a hobby, so.
Trying to see what this part is. This kind of is it blurred? Can you make this out? Find pipes and what? That blurred out.
Can't see anything
Okay.
But not loud pipes.
Pipes and.
Oh, a pipe is just like another way of saying a muffler.
Okay.
So like the exhaust system.
That word is was, a woodwork.
Not loud. No, this part is
Stephen,
pipe
put
dash here.
Catherine back on. She wanted to speak.
Yeah.
I'm curious, after Dan asked the young lady about the, how things have changed, but in the conversation, she had referred to him calling it a business, and he said it wasn't great in the winter, but it was going to get better in the spring or summer. So is it a business or isn't it a business?
It's not a business.
Yeah. See, the
It's a
response to her was that it was going slow in the winter. That's why I question it.
I meant it more as like I wasn't there a lot, you're not riding motorcycles a lot. I meant that I was going to be there more as the weather got warmer, that kind of a thing. I wasn't talking about the state of some imaginary business.
So what's it, I mean, from your opinion,
Yeah.
the noise was
Yeah.
obviously happening. Had it become a gathering spot?
If I needed help doing something, I would have a friend come by. Sometimes they would come on a motorcycle, or I would ask for advice. Somebody would
There'd
come
be
by.
a number of motorcycles that would gather there.
The most I can think of, like, maybe if we left from there 2, 3 at most. It's not like it was some clubhouse meeting or something.
Oh,
like that.
you know.
Yeah, a couple at most. Yeah.
I'm just a little confused. It says hobby shop, then I'm
Yeah.
hearing business, and then I'm hearing storage. So which?
Well, it's a place where I can store motorcycle parts, work on them when I need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, somewhere, and I don't believe I can find it again, I did find something in our book about automotive work that needed to be done inside, could not be done outside. I don't know whether that's a business, and I don't.
I think the board has to find whether this is a business or a hobby, and a business would be regulated more strictly. A hobby, you'd have to determine whether it's compatible with the residential neighborhood district. Or a reasonable hobby in a residential neighborhood district.
Yes.
can
Sorry, I
go
forgot
into
your
the
name.
little bit later.
Kathy, was there any photographs or video that you took?
I didn't take any. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So
Can I ask you if you would feel comfortable if we made a decision that the work could only happen during the day?
No.
And it had to be below certain decibel level?
I don't know how that could be. I mean, I don't work sometimes during the day, so that's when I'm home. And I don't think that could be regulated. I was told by somebody if the noise is excessive, just call the police, which I don't feel like that's what our police department is for. So I feel like, it's a residential and it's commercial, but there has to be a compromise of what kind of business is in a residential area. And I have to ask you if any of you would want this in your neighborhood. It's a very loud, assaultive noise. So it's very unpleasant, wildly unpleasant. And I be in my house. It's not that I'm outside. It's just it reverberates.
Should we go into deliberative session over this at the end of the, you think so, Gary?
I think we should.
Steve is a neighbor.
So is there a motion? If we go into deliberative session, what that means is that after the formal meeting is over, the board will meet by itself to discuss and make a decision.
So the meeting can move forward.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Dan has his hand up, I don't know.
Dan?
Yeah, before we lose our audience members and so forth, so I'm wondering, based on the distance we saw your residence is, ma'am, I see the clear, line of sight. Would you say that one solution might be, or is there a solution you can envision where sound, let's say fencing or something would be appropriate, or is there really no solution in your mind?
Can you stand up and?
It's not the site, it's the noise. And I can't imagine a fence that would, run along William Street to prevent that. I don't think it's possible.
I'm just asking.
I don't think so.
Well, there actually is a fence, but it's really ugly and you don't want it there. It's the ones that, the fences that they use.
Yeah, at what point does, the homeowner, taxpayer versus the renter, hobbyist, I don't want to turn my lawn upside down to accommodate noise that's very offensive. So, and I'm in a flood zone, and I was told by the town I'd have to get a permit for a fence, so.
Well, and a lot of that noise, with it being down in a gully, would tend to bounce around. You'd have a very hard time controlling it, I would assume.
So I have one question for Mr. Dompier. When you rented this property to Mr. Keith, was it with the understanding that he would be storing and working on motorcycles there?
I didn't feel it had any.
Just answer yes or no.
What was it?
When you rented the property to Mr. Keith, was it with the understanding that he would be storing and working on motorcycles there?
Yes, he was just not any business, but it was just a place he could have a place. He doesn't have a place to work on.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions from members of the public? Any comments? Yes.
My office is on 70 Western Ave.
Can you identify yourself?
Steven Spitzer.
And
I'm
where?
a licensed social worker. I have an office at 70 Western Avenue, so I'm right above Tyler's shop. And also my son lives with his mother. He goes back and forth kind of across the street, a little further down William Street. I've noticed very little of the kind of noise. Like I go around that block a lot. Tyler's not there very much. I'm friends with Tyler, so I notice if his truck's there. He's not there that much. I don't hear it up at the shop, even though I have a clear sight line. I don't hear the noise coming up so much, doesn't bother me so much. And I don't have that experience on William Street which where I'm going by the shop. So I'm sure that there are times that the motorcycles are revving it out, but I definitely do not have the experience of kind of continuous motorcycle noise emanating from the shop that would definitely irritate me. And that's not my experience.
Myra, did this gentleman take the oath, and did he give his name before he spoke?
Yeah, he took the oath and he gave his name.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
Okay, is there a motion to go into deliberative session following the,
Okay. I make a motion to go into deliberative session after the conclusion of the meeting here.
I second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go into deliberative session after the meeting. Dan, are you voting?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you voting?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I am voting on this one.
And you're
would you like
voting?
me to vote?
Yes.
Yes, I will vote to go into deliberative session. Yes.
Okay. Catherine,
No.
Nora,
Yes.
Gary,
Aye.
Michael,
Yes?
Tom,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So it's 6-1 to go into deliberative session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You will get a written decision
Okay.
within 45 days.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to 2022-93, Joshua Steele, appeal of zoning administrator's action, issuance of certificate of compliance for a new home at 40 Generous Street. Okay, can you please identify yourselves for the record?
Yes, I'm Ronald Ferrara, attorney with Fitz Olson Giddings and Ferrara, representing Joshua Steele.
I'm Josh Steele. I'm one of the owners of 30 Generous Street.
I have to say, that in the materials that we received prior to the meeting, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I didn't get a clear idea of what exactly your issue with the issuance of the certificate of compliance was. And since we did not get that information in detail, I'm not sure that we can actually, the application says requesting DRB review of Brattleboro Planning Department's issuance of a temporary on June 9th and final June 22nd certificates of compliance to include a review of photos, survey to be provided. We never got a survey, and a site visit. Well, we did the site visit, but I still am not clear exactly what your issue is. And we like to get that information in advance of the meeting so that we can review it, and it would have been nice to have it before the site visit. And so I am not sure that we can move forward on this. Yes?
Madam Chair, the minimum requirements for filing an appeal is to identify the sections that they feel the action was in violation of. They failed to do this. This is not a valid appeal. I ask the board to dismiss it.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
You have a survey. It's in the record. It's one that we all looked at when the packet came out. And our application indicates that we would talk about the survey, and it's very straightforward with respect to the non-compliances that are evident on the face of the zoning permit that was issued based on the plan that was submitted. The town should not have granted a certificate of compliance based on the setbacks that this survey shows where the property line is, and we had a site visit where the gentleman that built that property told you he didn't know where the pins were. He referenced pins that aren't even on the survey that's in the record.
I'm still saying that we did not get the information prior to this meeting, and I'm not sure which sections you think are being violated. I mean, as far as I could tell by the site visit, and the setback was within the limits, and the side setback was within the 5 feet.
The site plan that was submitted and the as-built plan both show that they're calling out 15 feet from the property line, and that property line is the wrong property line because they've referenced it from points that aren't even on the survey that are in the record.
Well, that being said, on this survey that we got as we walked in the door today,
Who provided this one?
I assume that came from you folks?
No, sir, that's the town's record.
Okay.
Okay. That shows that Mr. Steele's fence is actually on Mr. Erickson's property?
No, sir.
Okay, in the bottom, if you look at it, do you have a copy of this?
I do.
It shows a fence going over the property line.
That's not a survey that. You're looking at the survey for the other property behind. That is the fairground survey, which shows the pin.
I guess I'm confused then.
Okay.
Excuse me. I still do not understand what exactly, what setback are you saying is in violation? And what section of the regs are being violated? We did not get that information. So I'm afraid that I don't think that this is an appeal that we can move forward on.
This is an appeal on the dimensional standards with respect to the setbacks.
You didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying it right now. It's pretty clean.
Excuse me, sir. Your application, the application only said exactly what I just read. And that was not sufficient to file an appeal.
The last page does something kind of in the middle, I think is what you two are saying. Form J, number 2, it says, the prompt is provision of zoning bylaw in question, and the answer is various, but particularly setback from property line. So it doesn't spell out.
But which setback?
The setback that's adjacent to Mr. Steele's property.
Your appeal does not say that.
Well, if you look at the actual record, which would include the letter that I wrote to the town on Mr. Steele's behalf, it indicates specifically that we're talking about the garage, the height of the garage for one thing, but more importantly, the setback from the property line for Mr. Steele's property. And you heard tonight at the site visit that the gentleman who built that property measured from 2 pins that he wasn't even sure where they were, and they're not shown on the surveys that you're looking at. He came from the other side of the property and measured towards Mr. Steele, when he should have found the pins that are on, not only on the record that you have, but on the survey for the people behind there when you did the fairgrounds. That pin is there in the ground. It's incumbent upon the person building to find the pin, draw the right line, and figure out how far to set back. That's what didn't happen in this case. And not only that, but you saw the moved monument out there. That's a red flag for anybody building. If they have a survey that shows a monument that's not in the right spot, they should be saying, maybe I should be measuring something here. Maybe I shouldn't just go over to the other corner and measure because it's more convenient. Find the pin, because it's on the survey from the fairgrounds job, and it's on the survey that you saw that's 40 years old. and it's on Mr. Steele's property somewhere, but it's not incumbent upon him to find it. He's not the one that needs to draw the line.
I'd like to know if there's the Steele property owners have a memory or can testify that that pin between their properties along Generous Street have they noticed that in previous years and decades?
The pipe that's out front?
Yeah.
Nearest my property, it's been there this entire time. The one that's in the bushes on the other side of the property, that's never been there. That's a new one.
Okay. But the one demarking your bound.
The marking nearest my house, 30, in between 30 and 40 Generous Street, that's pin's been there 12 years that we've owned the house.
Okay.
Yep.
And they're not disputing that line? Okay. Or maybe at least that end of the line. Let's just say that's all I'm asking. Okay.
And this board also heard testimony at the site visit that that gentleman is not a surveyor. I believe Brian made that point very clear.
Brian.
Mr. Farr is also not a surveyor, and he is also not working off the best information on where the boundary lines are located and what the setbacks are. We had a site visit today where the builder showed us pins. He showed how they related to other records on file, and he showed that not only does the structure meet the setbacks, it does so with a large margin of error.
I would
The
disagree.
appellant has had a chance to hire somebody to provide more professional information. They have not done so. They have provided nothing except a little bit of chaff to try and obscure the situation. But in fact, the evidence entered for where the boundary lines is clear, reasonable, and better than most applications.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Two thoughts. One is we had filed for a continuance. And I believe that we never got a formal opinion on that, but then the materials were presented to us that were presented tonight, and so here we are.
You didn't ask for continuance.
You sent us the letter and then you showed up. You
Well,
said you
because-
were not gonna come to the meeting.
Didn't
And
say
then you
that.
showed up, and so when you came, you did not ask to have your continuance
Ruled on.
ruled on. You just said that the survey was wrong, that you had provided information. You know, I got your letter asking for a continuance. I think
Asked for a
everybody on the
continuance.
board asked for that. Got the copy of the letter. And if you had come to us, I would be opposed to granting you a continuance because Mr. Erickson deserves to have a decision made. You filed the appeal in June, and this is August. We did not get anything that showed what exactly in the land use regs you feel were violated. You never got anything that said what your survey showed. We don't have, all we have is, well, this is wrong. Well, show us that it's wrong.
Well,
And so you don't have a professional surveyor come in and say what is wrong. What's wrong with the setbacks? No, I'm talking about you did not hire a surveyor to come in and show what you're trying to prove.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, on the face of Form J, it states, Mr. Steele, his understanding is that the garage is not set back sufficiently to satisfy the permit. The permit, of course, is based on a sketch that says it's going to be 15 feet from his property line. The as-built that was submitted that I got after the fact, that I only got after I asked for a continuance, then I get the package of documentations as before the board, Well, then I see that as built still shows it calling out as 15 feet from the line, and it's not. It's the wrong line. It's absolutely the wrong line.
Well,
You got
you
two
haven't
surveys
shown
of
us-
record that say so.
You haven't shown us anything.
So let's come back in a little bit and I'll show you.
No,
Maya, the builder's as-built survey shows 15 feet and inches to what they claim is the property line, but then 9 feet and 11 inches to what they claim is the green fence. But yet when we were there on site, the pin was in line with the fence. So how can those?
The back fence,
No,
the
not-
back line, the back, I realize that the,
Yeah, I mean, I
The
didn't,
pin on the
I'm not a
back.
surveyor who measures things,
Well,
but I'm just
yeah.
deducing here from what I see.
yeah, and what I'm saying is that it was the appellant's responsibility to provide a survey.
We're working with the one that's in the record. You have two surveys that show the same
No.
pin.
Just to clarify for Tom, that survey I handed out at the beginning of the hearing, I had just printed it out. I hadn't realized it existed before, or that it showed that particular corner. But that's from the Route subdivision, which was approved at the end of last year. And it has this fence that's in question, and it shows how the fence intrudes into Mr. Erickson's land along the back portion of the property.
And it also shows.
And it's consistent with what the builder represented.
Brian, Brian, I have a question for Brian. Is that the survey that we got in our package? Is there any way we can put that up?
No, it's a more recent survey, Catherine. It's one you folks
Oh.
approved at the end of '21.
Okay.
When we approved the subdivision on Generous Street,
On Fairground.
I mean, on Fairground.
Right.
And it just happens to show the two, Mr. Steele's and Mr. Erickson's property.
Okay.
Just to jump in, it's really kind of irrelevant because the question is whether I had a reasonable basis for issuing the certificate of compliance and whether I had a reasonable basis for determining that it was in conformance with dimensional standards. And again, I feel that I was acting with a reasonable basis,
I agree.
and I would ask the board to find that and dismiss this.
I mean, in my experience, I have found that when people are concerned about offsets and the like, that it's generally, it turns into more of a boundary line issue, complaint about where the boundary line actually is. And most often, what happens at the end of the day is that both parties purchase a surveyor either by one or the other to clarify where in fact the boundary line is. That doesn't. And in cases like this that I've seen, zoning administrators have to use their best judgment to say, is there a big red flag here that's saying this is wrong, and I'm not, you're not a surveyor. So that when somebody is, I guess I'd have to agree with you, Maya, that there isn't anything obvious looking at the site that to me says there's something glaringly bad without having some documentation from a licensed surveyor that's saying this is where the boundary line actually is. The only documentation we have from a licensed surveyor shows us that Mr. Steele's fence actually goes onto a portion of the property.
Well, and the other thing, if I may, that you have is actually two surveys of record that show a pin in the ground that marks the proper corner that you should be measuring from. And the gentleman that was measuring today was not starting on any pins found on any of these surveys.
Ronald, apparently
Excuse me,
pins
excuse me.
disappear.
Excuse me.
They found them in 2021.
If you wanted to dispute the setback, you should have provided a report from your own surveyor. It's not Mr. Erickson's responsibility to provide information for your appeal. And I do not believe that the appeal was properly filed because it lacks specificity. Is that a word? Specificity.
It is a word.
And as I said, I'm reading your form. Provision of zoning bylaw in question, various. Well, what specifically do you mean by various? And so I don't have enough information to talk about your appeal, to be honest with you.
Well, then would you grant us the continuance that we would like? And we'll come back with some more specifics?
You have had since June to provide specific information.
Well, we were also under the impression that we would have a choice of when we could get this on the docket. This is very much the first opportunity it showed up. I had spoken to Brian about trying to schedule this so that it would be convenient for all parties, but that never happened.
Well, we have specific meeting dates that are set a year in advance. We do not hold special meetings.
No, but we would have liked to have one a little further out in the year to be able to get that survey. Surveyors are hard to come by these days.
I attempted to contact a surveyor, and I called 4 people. 2 of them were retired. 1 was too busy, and the other one was in Massachusetts and not licensed for Vermont. So I've been trying to find a surveyor, and it just hasn't been able to happen. And this entire process has been extremely rushed. And in my busy schedule, trying to make money to be here, I haven't had an opportunity.
I mean, you filed the certificate of compliance.
Yes,
Filed on June.
I absolutely hear what you're saying, Maya, for sure. I'm just letting you know that I've attempted, but because this entire process has been very rushed, I haven't had enough time to be able to do it. I need more time. I need to find a surveyor.
In the survey, you do not cite any other specific violations of the regs.
The good news is that some of those violations have been cured, and that's why we're not even going into them, like the wastewater permit that wasn't on record, but suddenly there it is, so that's good. I mean, that's one thing that's off the table. The erosion issues are still there, but they've been improved, so we're not really hammering on that one much. But the dimensional question, that's not going away. That's the footprint of a building too close to a line that should have been surveyed before you built it.
According to, can I say something?
Sure.
According to the images that the contractor put out, if you look at this, this is the fence that I have there, and then this is what they believe is our property line.
I don't see that at all.
Yeah, that's what they believe.
It's the as-built in your package.
If that was the situation, my garage is 17 feet away from his garage. That means a foot to 2 feet off of my garage would be my property line, and that's not the case. My property line is about 11 feet off of my garage.
Well,
that means, according to this, they're trying to take, let's say, 8 feet off of my property, according to this. And I've never even seen this. I was never given an opportunity to even be a part of the process in the construction of this building.
can I have a motion, please, to go into deliberative session?
I'm going to hear from Brian.
Brian?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Just one thing about scheduling. It's not at the convenience that people make appeal. It's at the next available meeting.
I know.
The regulations.
With-
I will think an attorney.
With my insanely busy schedule, I'm unable to do everything I have to in a single day. And I'm very, very committed to this, and I really want to figure this out, because this is hurtful to us. This is damaging to me and my partner in my house. We have a lot of issues now, especially water runoff issues. And the biggest thing is the proximity that they built is not within what they said they were going to do. And now, according to this, I'm realizing that they think 7 feet of my property, 8 feet of my property is theirs. And that's just not the case.
Well,
And we have two.
excuse me, I've already said you did not provide us with any independent survey information.
I would love to do that. That's the next step, and I'm working on that. I need more time.
Well, you're busy. We're volunteer members of a board, and we're busy also. And we have a schedule that we keep. And your letter of appeal asks us to schedule a meeting in late September or early October. That is not when we meet, okay?
What do you mean that's not when you meet? Is it you take
We meet on the third Wednesday of every month.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
it gets scheduled
That's
for the next, when there's an appeal filed, it gets scheduled for the next available meeting.
As a Brattleboro resident, I've been paying taxes here for 12 years. You know, if you look at it, I pay over $300 a month in taxes. You know, times 12 months, times 12 years, that's over $45,000 in taxes. And now seeing this, that they believe that 7 feet of my property is theirs, is even more discouraging and more damaging to my situation.
I'm sorry, you haven't provided any proof.
I would love to, I'm working on that. I need more time. The way that this was scheduled was super quick, and I need more time. My partner works 2 full-time jobs. I work 2 full-time jobs. I need more time. This has been a very rushed process, and I'm not understanding why it's going so quickly. It's not giving me any opportunity.
August. It's the middle of August. The appeal was filed in June.
Well, you have to file the appeal timely, otherwise you lose that window. And then you can't find a surveyor, so what are you supposed to do?
I don't know how to craft a motion to do something like we did for the first case. Maybe not deny it, but allow more time to come back with a more complete document.
No, we're going to go into deliberative session and talk about it.
And we need to take testimony.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to?
You go into deliberate, can I be participative?
No.
I can't witness that?
Just the board.
Sue has her hand up.
Brian. Is there anybody else in the public that wants to speak? Mr. Erickson.
Bill Erickson, 40 Jenner Street. The information that we had that we went on as far as the property line refers back to a survey that was found in Town Hall before construction started. And that's what we outlined at the site visit that you all were at. 3 of the 4 pins are there. The other one that's not there, we went by my deed as to where it should be, and by the survey that was in Town Hall. That's where we got the property line from. As far as I know, that was accurate, yeah.
Do we have that survey?
I have a picture on my phone. I assume it's still in Town Hall somewhere.
It's the one that was provided with the packet.
Oh, the one from 1980-ish?
Yeah.
That shows Josh's property and the one to his west?
And a granite marker and a pin, yes, in that corner.
That is now in a neighbor's garden.
Excuse me.
So that's what we use, just for your information, that's what we used as a basis of information for the property line.
Thank you. Brian.
Yes, of course, this is just an appeal of the certificate of compliance. If the board finds that I acted in error, all that would happen is that certificate of compliance would be invalidated. There's an existing uncontested temporary certificate of compliance, which would allow the continued occupation of the dwelling until I was able to issue a corrected certificate of compliance. If the board finds I acted in error, I would ask them to say exactly how I acted in error so I can correct that immediately and issue the new certificate. This isn't just a matter of convenience for somebody making an appeal. This is a matter for the homeowner to be secure in their own property. They have acted in a way that is straightforward. They have always dealt with me in a straightforward manner. I've tried to be professional in my approach to this. I feel that they have acted with reasonable information, that they have always given a large margin of error to fit within the regulations. It's clear that they do in fact fit the regulations. They have done everything asked of the town. He should be able to enjoy his home without this continued questioning and harassment.
So
I ask you
Ryan,
to act today.
at this site visit, I think you took testimony from a neighbor. Did you want to enter that?
It's not immediately
Where
relevant.
was the neighborhood?
Catherine, what did you say?
I'm sorry, well, I wasn't able to go on the site visit, but, from what Nora said, can we, in other words, the testimony is not coming directly to us with that testimony person there?
He recorded it.
Objection. She's not under
Yeah.
oath. Whatever you've got going on is not under oath.
It's irrelevant. It's just an expression of support. It doesn't really directly speak to any of the things at hand.
Okay, thank you.
Sue had her hand up. Yeah.
She took it down.
Okay, can I
You know, I
have
have to say, I agree with Maya. I really do. I think professionally, my opinion on the board is that I think that Brian did act professionally.
can I have a motion, please, to go into deliberative session?
Motion, we go into deliberate session.
Second. All in favor of going into deliberative session? Catherine?
Aye.
Nora?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, so it's 6-0 to go into deliberative session. And you'll get a written decision from us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 2022-102, Carmen Berelson. Is that, did I say that right? And you're requesting a subdivision to convert an existing 3-unit dwelling into 3 condo units.
This is a first. We haven't had one of these before.
No.
No, we've never had a condo unit. I do have some experience with condos and condo agreements and stuff like that from a previous life, so.
Well, I do too. I had a condo, but I never applied for a subdivision, so.
So can you talk to us about what exactly you want to do?
This is a building that has 3 self-contained apartments of different sizes, and I live in one and 2 are rented. And I would like to convert this into condos so I could sell them individually and keep one for myself.
Does anybody have any questions?
I guess, did you have an attorney or anyone to draw up a condo maintenance agreement on how the common areas and the roof and all that, and how you're going to fund future maintenance on the building?
Not yet. I mean, I thought I would wait for the decision of the board and then go ahead with this.
Anybody else have any other questions? Dan, Catherine. Catherine's gone. Dan, do you have any questions?
Well, just to follow up on that question, if you wouldn't mind putting up the floor plan, if maybe the applicant could point out obviously roof and grounds are common areas, but if she could point out, like, there are a couple of covered porches, I believe, and what she was envisioning being the common areas, at least to start with.
There are no common areas as far as covered porches or patios are concerned. The only common area would be the parking area. So there's one parking space with space for 4 cars. But all the other buildings, they have their own porch or their own porch and patio. With only, each unit only has access to their own porch or patio.
Okay, so every unit has their own entry?
Yes. So there's no hallway or anything.
So the common area would be the roof and the siding of the painting of the building as an entirety, and the maintenance of the parking.
Yes.
And whatever lawn area you have.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the grounds, yes.
I would are all of the electricals and everything all completely separate in each individual unit?
The electrical is separate. I just installed cold climate heat pumps. They're also separate. Unit, which one is it?
Does each unit have its own circuit breaker box?
Yes.
Are there three?
Yes.
Three meters on the outside of the building?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only thing that is not separate at this point is that Unit 1 and Unit 3 have one hot water heater, but I want to install a second one anyway, so. Everything else is separate.
So were you saying there are 3 meters currently for the 3 units?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on how this works, but I think you'd need a 4th meter for the common service, like lighting, outdoor lighting and things like that.
Yeah. The only outdoor lighting is really for the parking area.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that could be either converted into solar. Because I mean,
possible.
To install a separate meter for 2 lights.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really, I'm just speculating really. I guess what I was getting at though is in what you haven't shown us is the basement of the building. I'm assuming that every unit would have their own access to the basement. Is that a walkout? Is there an entrance from the first floor?
Well, Unit 3 has what is called mechanical area. That's a basement. It's a dirt basement, and that's only accessible from Unit 3. Unit 1 does not have a basement at all. And Unit 2 has a basement which is underneath most of Unit 1. It's also a dirt basement. That's accessible from the apartment, and it's also accessible from the outside.
So the mechanicals, are they for the entire building?
No, I don't know why they called it mechanical area. They just did. I don't know. No.
And what you're calling the lower, there's 3 floors, correct? In the larger part of the building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the lower level is what I would call floor 1, and then there's anyway. Mm-hmm. So when we see Unit 3, that's underneath Unit 1.
Yes, exactly.
In the actual building. I was a little confused by that, but then I made sense of it with driving by and looking, seeing there was 3 floors.
Yes, so Unit 3 is a ground floor accessing from High Street. And then Unit 1 is above Unit 3, but again, it is ground floor with an access from Chestnut Hill.
Yeah.
And then the other drawing here that shows Unit 1 with 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, that's the 3rd floor. This is on top of the ground floor of Unit 1.
Now, what's the regs requirement for parking? Is it 1 per unit?
None, right?
Does bedrooms matter, or?
So we don't have any regulatory language for a condominium subdivision.
No, but isn't it just it's a dwelling unit, so it requires one parking space, or is that it?
Yes.
It's entirely possible that is a valid interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 1.
So is there space for 3 cars?
There's space for 4 cars, yeah.
And as far as, I assume all you're hooked up to city water and sewer, is that all separate, or is that all coming in and out at one pipe? Or?
That's not separate, and it usually is not separate in any condo I have ever lived in.
Oh, but
It's usually-
so you get one,
Yes.
one bill for, one water bill for the whole
Right.
unit,
Yeah,
for everything.
yes,
So that would have to be part of any agreement, condo agreement.
yeah.
And the insurance too, you know, on the.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the condo insurance for the whole thing.
And you have to have a maintenance fund.
Yep.
Yep.
So, are there any other questions?
Maybe this is the last one. So these are currently rentals. I guess two things. Have there been any issues with sound, the need for sound insulation or anything between the units?
No.
Okay. And
The
then
two are rentals. I occupy one.
two out of the three, sure, sure. And then I guess living there as an owner occupied rental property, have you enjoyed, having neighbors there? Is it easy to navigate the building for everybody?
Yeah, I would say so, yes. I mean, that's why I would like to stay there, just in a smaller apartment, because I'm in the big one now and it's just way too big for me. I don't need that much space anymore,
So you're currently in Unit 1?
Yes. And it's obviously quite large for one person, yeah. So I would like to sell Unit 1 and keep one of the smaller ones.
And I guess it's safe to say for fire safety reasons, everything's gonna be set up through that as far as with each unit separately, will have their own.
Well,
It already is.
It already is.
It must be,
It already is
it's
because,
rental.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, the fire inspection was.
Because I know now they have different
Because-
boxes for each unit. When
But
they're-
everybody's been,
Yeah.
it's been inspected by the fire department.
Yes,
For
it was, yeah.
certificate of occupancy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the request to create 3 condominium units at, what's the address?
219.
17 and 219 High Street.
Okay.
217 and 219 High Street. And I'd like to make a condition that you provide the planning department with a condominium agreement that you have had approved by a lawyer. And I don't know of any other conditions.
That's all.
Anybody else have any other conditions?
No.
Well, the condominium agreement should cover the maintenance of the parking, the roof, the painting of the
Structure.
building, the structure,
Who gets the parking spots? Like that.
the parking, and
Any water and sewer issues
and how the water and sewer bill will be divided.
and/or maintained?
Yeah.
Right.
Anybody else think of anything else?
Well, there's snow
I
removal
mean,
and all
I
that
would
kind of stuff.
ask Brian if, I don't know, whether this is done regularly at all. Are there agreements that other people have used in similar applications that are?
I've seen a couple of buildings in town that they converted some of the larger homes into, a handful of condominiums, and they have really extensive condo declarations. It seems like it's very formulaic, and
Yeah.
it gets into every detail and definition. So
Well, that's
I mean,
good.
You might start by seeing if you can get a hold of something like that to get a feel for what direction you might want to go with it.
You mean from somebody who did it in the past, or?
Yeah, or from,
Or from Brian?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Steve?
So we have one that we had recently pulled out of the files to look at to get a better understanding ourselves of what one of those looks like, and that's a public record, so we'd be happy to share that
thank you.
with the DRB as well.
It would be a good starting point, that's all.
Thank you. Is there a timeline by when you would need
No,
this?
I think what we'll say in the condition is it has to be provided to the planning department before you can go ahead with the sale of the units. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it does. You know, again, this is a great idea. Many people should do this. It's perfect for these large houses we have and promoting home ownership. Not done incredibly often, so it might take a while for an attorney to get to work on this and get their declarations done.
Yeah.
And we should be as flexible as possible with this.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying just have it to them before you put the units up for sale.
Well, I guess the deed has to be changed anyway
Yeah,
before.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so the steps would be the agreement, the declaration, registering the deeds, and then putting them up for sale.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for considering this.
Okay,
I think
so we haven't voted yet.
Nope.
Oh, that's right.
Just 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a motion to approve what we just said?
I motion that we approve what we just said.
Okay, second.
I second.
Okay. All right, shall we vote? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the creation of the condominiums. Dan?
I feel there's a conflict of interest, so I'm going to abstain.
Are you recusing? You didn't recuse
Sure.
yourself.
No, I did not know. It's not based on this particular case. It's the principle. I'll just tell you, of taking rental properties off the market, and just in general, I feel like I should abstain.
Okay. Catherine?
Or recuse, whichever you prefer.
No, abstain.
Or just say no.
What?
I could also say no, but it's not necessary.
Okay, Dan is abstaining. Catherine?
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom? And I'll vote yes. So it's 6 yeses and 1 abstention. So you're good to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion to go into deliberative session, and we will do Miss, what's her name? Where's my agenda? Miss Joynt.
Shastin.
No, we don't have anything for her.
No, it was Tyler. It was Tyler and Dom.
Sorry.
Going in for
You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
it's 202277.
Right.
I just want to close the hearing and because I have
Yeah,
any.
so I will do that, and we'll discuss Tyler Keith first, and then after Brian leaves, we will discuss Mr.
I
Steele.
feel like I have both of those because they are both appeals of ZA decisions.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sue comes on board, right?
And Steve will continue to staff, and I'll check in with you guys about ultimate results tomorrow.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank you.
do you have you're going to take minutes from the deliberative session?
Yeah, I mean, you can take that with you if you want to email that to me. I'll be able to make use of that. Or we don't have to have
Just scribble in
minutes. Yeah, we don't have to have minutes of the. Okay.
Yeah, just
By open
just
meeting
make
law,
notes.
that's not supposed to be part of.
Hi,
It's just that
Chris.
we did enter it.
Hey, Chris, we'll see you soon, buddy. Bacon fest. That's right, no, the food fest.
So,
A question for you, Maya. When you say minutes for the deliberative session, you're looking for just a note of what was discussed for your own writing of decision? Okay. Yep.
So we gotta close this one.
Yep. So, it is 8:50 and, I am calling the meeting adjourned. Or calling for a motion to adjourn the meeting and to go into deliberative session.
I motion that we close the meeting and go into deliberate session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.